Hello boys and girls, welcome to my channel. I'm for Classic and welcome to BenchART. So for today what I do have in it is CarX Street, the PC version in this case. So this game, it is not exactly recent. I mean, it was released in like 1 year ago or something like that. But today they actually made this game available for the PC for free. The game is not free, don't get me wrong, it was just a free weekend on Steam and I decided to give it a try. This game uses Unity from the 2022 version of engine, and it feels like a decent optimized game in my opinion. So I decided to try out and see how it runs, and it runs fine at 1080p Ultra with the frame rate being limited because of the CPU, which means that if you have a much better CPU on your hand and you have the RX 6700 XT, you will definitely experience a much better frame rate than what I'm having at this point. So you might ask, how much? Well, you can expect something like more 30% of performance. Okay, so translating that, for example, at the moment I'm getting 80 frames per second. Getting more 30%, it's pretty much you will get around 100 frames per second when I'm only getting like 80. So I think it's a pretty good result, and you don't necessarily need to run at ultra. If you want, you can run it at high. This will help both the GPU and the CPU, but the game just runs fine at ultra settings and it's not really demanding. I mean, VRAM usage is, well, laughable. It's around 4 gigabytes of VRAM, and the CPU, it doesn't seem to be using too much threads. Okay, it seems to be using the cores but maybe not the threads, and yeah, maybe because of that I'm just getting the bottleneck in here. Regarding stuttering, there is barely any stuttering. Okay, so that's the good thing about it. There is a mildly small shader compilation at the beginning. Despite it's a DX11 game, it does it at the beginning of the game to prevent you to have stuttering, which it's actually avoidable I mean, for the most part. So as you can see, excellent result in here for the CarX Street PC. Yeah, I might say stuff like, oh, okay, but you are running alone, so maybe running with other players or bots, it gets the game more demanding. Well, it sure does, but still the ultra settings still deliver an experience above than 60. Okay, I wasn't really able to repeat a race, which includes the bots. That's why I decided to take this one. And this one, it's mostly in downtown, which is more CPU demanding. So I thought that this was an interesting race to use as a benchmark reference. All right, so let's just do this power slide in here. Okay, and let's move on to 1440p. My recommendations at 1440p, it is high settings instead of ultra, because I do think that this setting it is pretty good. And just like 1080p, I'm also being bottlenecked in here. So again, I'm having pretty much the same frame rate as I was having at 1080p, which is weird. And the GPU usage is slightly higher. So instead of having like a GPU usage with average of 70%, my GPU usage it is now around 85%. Okay, depending on the areas where I'm playing. So performance is virtually the same to what I had at 1080p, except that this time around I'm playing with the high settings and I'm not playing at ultra. Well, talking about ultra, maybe we should see how this game performs at ultra with 1440p. So let me just show you off. So 1440p ultra, as you can see, I'm not hiding anything in here. And performance, it is again very similar, with the GPU usage being higher again. So at the moment it is about 90% or 90 something percent. Sometimes in my system the GPU usage is not pegged to 99% because either I'm having a CPU bottleneck or either I do think that some of the games don't really take as much advantage as as they should, and there is also this limitation, which is the RX 6700 XT. It's a PCI Express for graphic card, and unfortunately my Ryzen 5 3600 and my motherboard only supports PCI Express 3, so I'm not delivering the full bandwidth. So this might be one of the reasons why my GPU usage is not, well, that high. Anyway, ultra settings in here with 1440p, it does deliver for the most part 60 frames per second. I really mean by the most part, like maybe 99%, maybe 95% of the time. It's easily above than 60 with no issues whatsoever. It's just some small moments where the game does drop than 60. You can get like 57 or 58, so no big deal for the majority of the people. You won't probably be dropping down the game from ultra to high, but honestly I think that you should nonetheless, because graphics quality comparing high to ultra, it's really barely noticeable in this game, and you can benefit for the extra performance, which is good. Still, if you want to go with ultra, most of your performance will be above than 60, and if you have a variable refresh rate screen, like a FreeSync monitor screen, I mean, I don't think you will notice anything, and so you can go with ultra instead of going with high. Okay, so that's pretty good, and I think it's time to see how this game performs at 4K. So 4K, my favorite setting for playing at 4K, it is definitely the high setting again, but this time around I'm using upscaling. Unfortunately, the game doesn't support FSR or Intel XeSS, so I'm not even sure if they support the OSS, but I mean, NVIDIA have the majority of the games with the OSS, none of the rest. So we AMD users are left out with the TAAU solution from Unity, which is very blurry, so it's exactly like Final Fantasy XIV, so it's a very blurred solution. Still, at 4K, it's actually acceptable. I just think it is pretty bad at 1080p, none of the rest, but at 4K, I think it's pretty good. So 4K, it's at balanced TAAU. It's essentially upscaling from something in between 1080p and 1440p to 4K. I think the results are pretty good in here, and I'm using high settings, which, like I said before, it's very good in this game, and it's not really that different comparing to ultra, at least on with my bare highs, without doing side-by-sides or putting screenshots by side-by-sides at the same place to try to understand what's the difference. So at the naked eye, honestly, I haven't really noticed too much of a difference. I mean, yeah, sure, shadow quality should probably be different, but when racing, I doubt that you notice the difference. And in fact, the eye setting still looks really good on the shadows and on the majority of the stuff. So let's move on to my classic split screen comparison in here for 4K. Okay. And for my comparison, what I do have in it is 4K Ultra on the left and 4K Ultra on the right. Yeah, both of them are 4K Ultra, with the exception that on the left I'm using TAAU on quality. This is essentially upscaling from 1440p to 4K. Okay, and as you can see, the results are probably good enough if you have a FreeSync monitor screen. But if you want to walk the game at 60, it's a very inconsistent experience. So most of the performance will be in between 45 to 60. Worst case scenario, maybe 40. So it's good if you have a variable refresh rate screen, but if you don't have it, it's a little bit on the middle ground, no man's land. Okay. As for 4K Ultra, it's a good choice if you want to target 30 frames per second until it starts to drop below than 30. So because of that, it's a little bit harder to recommend. For the most part, it runs above than 30. but there are some heavy drops that put the game at running lower than 30. So probably if you want to play with a 30 frames per second locked, I'm not really sure who the hell wants to do that, but assuming that you want to do that, you want to play at 30 frames per second locked, you can do it just fine with 4K Ultra with TAAU quality, because without upscaling from TAAU, probably you will have drops, and probably even worse if you are racing with other opponents, whatever if they are bots or whatever if they are real players playing the game. Okay, so I think it's pretty much this. The game is pretty lightweight. I did enjoy about the visuals of the game. Drifting feels weird, in my opinion, but this might be just my car. And the sense of speed is something that I'm disappointed about this game. Everything seems to be going very slow. It's very easy to race. So yeah, maybe on multiplayer against other players, this is quite different. Okay, so I think that's all that I want to talk about CarX Streets PC version. Hope you did enjoy the video, and I do hope to see you soon. Goodbye.